Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the most dangerous place on Arrakis. Well, not exactly. This is actually the PvE section of the deep desert, so we're not in any danger here. But I wanted to come out here as people start getting themselves into the deep desert, and as the more casual players in the larger section of the player base start getting to where they're thinking about dipping their toes in out here. I wanted to talk a little bit about some preparations you should make so that you don't make the same mistake that me and many of my friends have made, where we come out here and we never make it back on our first flight because we've died, and the primary way that that happens is we don't bring any water. There is no water in the deep desert of Arrakis. There are no dew plants. You can't drink the dew to get just a little bit of water. You can't reap the dew at night. There is no water on the dunes of Arrakis out here in the deep desert. You can get a little bit of a little bit of water in the testing stations. There are always those little water drinking locations in the testing stations. But in order to get down into those, you have to fight the enemies. And those enemies are designed to be fought by 4 people or a full group. So as a solo who's just now coming out into the deep desert for their first time, the likelihood that you're going to get past them to get to one of those water cisterns to save yourself from dying to dehydration is pretty slim to none. So don't forget your water or you're going to have a bad day. The other thing you don't want to forget is the water for your vehicle, some fuel. You gotta have yourself a couple of fuel cells. I recommend the large fuel cells. They're pretty easy to make. You can get a lot of the energy cells or the fuel cells that you turn into the vehicle fuel cells. So make sure you bring you a couple of larges out here. It doesn't just use up the whole thing when you fill up your vehicle. It only uses up as much as it needs. So you can use these over and over again for your scout ornithopter. Make sure you bring a couple of them with you and you'll be able to fly around out here as much as you need. Now those are the most important things to bring with you. In fact, if that's all you bring with you, this isn't my base, but I'm going to use it. In fact, if those are the only things you bring with you, you're still going to be just fine out here. You could come out here with no clothes on and nothing but a little bit of water and a little bit of fuel, and you'd actually be all right. Next thing you need to learn about the deep desert of Arrakis is you need to learn how to read the map. So we're going to take a look at this fun little graphic right here. Now when you come in from the world map, you're going to come in and things are kind of angled, right? The entrance locations of the deep desert are at an angle to the bottom left and top right. And that makes it seem like when you enter the deep desert, you're actually going to be traveling in this direction. But that is not what happened. They did us a solid and they oriented the entire thing north-south. So the further out into the deep desert you go, you're just heading directly north. And then when you want to come back, you just turn straight south and head back. So that makes it really easy. So the way it works is from south to north, you have your rows and they're done alphabetically A through I. And then from west to east, you have your columns and they're done numerically 1 through 9. So we're currently sitting in E8 right about here. And that's right on the border of where the PvP and PvE start. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, then you already know that the PvE zone has actually been expanded. But in case you were living under a rock, we used to only get this A row. A1 through 9 used to be our PvE section. Instead, now we get all the way up to halfway through E right here. And so this is important for more than one reason. Because this used to be the entire PvE section, this area, this row, is actually significantly different than the rest of the deep desert. The A row is actually built just like Haga Basin to be 100% soloable. So you're going to find testing stations and unrecovered shipwrecks in this A row that are going to give you duraluminum tier schematics that are designed to be defeated by one person. So if you come out here and you've got mostly duraluminum tier uniques and you just crush these testing stations in the A row, don't let that give you a false sense of superiority, because as soon as you get out into the rest of the deep desert, including this PvE area from B to E, the testing stations and the unrecovered shipwrecks out here, the enemies are designed for 3 to 4 players. That also goes for the small encampments where you get things like your EMF generators and your micro sandwich fibers. They are all designed for a team of players to fight. So you're going to crush everything here, and then you're going to come out into the deep desert and you're going to try and kill one tiny little encampment, and you are going to get absolutely raffle stomped. So be prepared for that. The deep desert is very, very unforgiving. Once you leave the shield wall, it is group content. So it's great to come out here solo. I come out here solo all the time, but just know you're going to have a rough time of it. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get out into the deep desert the first time is bring yourself some granite, bring yourself some fuel cells, bring yourself some scrap metal. And all you're going to want to do is build a really, really basic base. I actually don't see any super basic bases here. Let's go see if we can find one that's really basic. This one's kind of basic, but you're going to want to get yourself a super basic base that's basically just a place for you to store your ornithopters like this person here has. And the reason you're going to want that is because you're going to be right on the edge, right? We're here in the E region, so we can pop right into the PvP section of the deep desert, do all the farming we want, and then come right back and have this nice little safe space here where we can log off if we want. We can do whatever we want. So find yourself an area and get yourself prepared to be able to build that little house. And you can see there's plenty of little rock outcroppings, right? You could build right here. You don't need anything too huge. You don't necessarily even need to refine out here. You just need to have yourself a little safe spot on the edge of the desert so that you can come back and be in a good defensive position. Now, because things are really, really crowded out here, I do want to show you one little thing that's going to help you identify whether or not the rock outcropping that you want to build on is actually in the PvE zone or not. Now, if you look in the top middle of my screen, you'll see a little red band that goes above my compass. Sorry, not a red band, a yellow band. It's going to be red here in a moment. That yellow band is letting me know that I am currently in PvE zone. But if I turn myself to the north here a little bit, and we start heading into the PvP region, you're going to see, okay, now we're doing zone change in 3, 2, 1, 0. Now that band at the top middle of my screen has turned red. And that's letting me know that I am now in a PvP region. I can be attacked at this time. Now this changes if you go over one of the unrecovered shipwrecks, right? If you fly over the top of one and you cross into the PvP region there, that band will also change red and let you know that you are currently in that PvP zone. So keep an eye on that. If you ever don't quite know where you're at or don't quite know, if you get yourself in a control point, the control points in the PvE region are also PvP. So again, if you find yourself a nice little rock outcropping and you think, ooh, I'd really like to build my base here, but there happens to be a control point on that rock outcropping, and it turns that rock outcropping into a PvP section, then you'll know because you'll actually have that red bar up there. So find yourself a nice little rock spot, build yourself a nice little base out here in the E section. You're totally safe. Nobody can mess with you out here. And then make yourself little excursions. It's very important that I think you go into the PvE region, the PvP region of the deep desert to do your gathering, because the resource availability in the PvE area of the deep desert is pretty abysmal. And because you only really ever get the small spice blows in the PvE region of the deep desert, and because they're very often fake, where you'll go up and you'll shoot them with your compactor and they won't actually compact into spice sand, so you won't even be able to get any spice, it's going to be really, really aggravating to try and do your gathering and stuff in the PvE zone. So find a really, really nice, usually out in the G, H, and I area. You can find really, really dense areas like this one here is probably really dense with either stravidium or titanium. And find yourself those really dense areas, and then you can come out and just in a couple of minutes you can fill up even an assault ornithopter full of storage, a whole 1,000 weight of stravidium and or titanium and or spice, and then you can fly back real quick. Because of the change to missiles There is not a single vehicle in the game right now that can go faster than 144 kilometers an hour with missiles equipped. So as long as you have at least Mark V wings on your assault copter, you go faster than that. Now, I absolutely recommend Mark 6 wings on your assault copter and Mark 6 wings on your scout copter, but no matter what, if you have better than Mark 4 wings, well, you can't even have Mark 4 wings on an assault copter, so you have Mark 4 wings on a scout and Mark 5 wings on an assault will make you faster than anybody with rockets, so you can always escape. You will need to be quick about it. You'll need to gain your elevation. You'll need to do your glide. You'll need to learn the infinite glide with the scout, and you'll need to have a thruster on your assault copters so you can gain elevation and start your glide again, because the assault copter can't infinite glide. But absolutely 100%, you're fairly safe out here now. If you don't intend to PvP, just make sure you're paying attention to the sky around you while you're gathering. And if you see anybody else and you don't know for certain that they're going to be friendly, jump in your ornithopter and run away. So I hope that gives you all the courage to jump out into the deep desert and take a look around. It's an interesting biome. It's interesting stuff out here. Hopefully it becomes more interesting as they fix the faction system in the future. So I hope to see you all out in the deep desert. I hope to see you on the live streams. I live stream Dune every single day for 5 or 6 hours a day. So stop by here on the YouTube or over on the Twitch. And let me know in the comments how your first trip into the deep desert goes. Did you get blown up by somebody? Did you find a big spice blow that basically nobody was at and get a nice little cheeky fill up on your assault ornithopter? How did your first trip go? How do you like the deep desert? And what are you looking forward to in the future? Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you all on the next one.